Let's take a look at how to create your own custom tag in AutoCAD Architecture and then associate the information of that tag with your own custom schedule. On the screen I have a blank drawing, and to the left I have one of Archidyme's numerous tool palettes that has our basic object tags, multi-view block object tags that come in different shapes. So our customers can choose whichever shape they prefer to tag things like furniture, plumbing fixtures, electrical objects, and so on. But what's even better is to know how to build these so that you can either customize those that we have created or actually build your own from scratch. So let's begin. The first thing I will do is set my scale to a 1-to-1 scale setting. This is architectural units, so it's showing 1 foot equals 1 foot. If you have 1-to-1, that's the same thing, so that's perfect. The next thing I'm going to do is to draw a circle of some presumed size that I will place an attribute definition inside of to use as my example tag. So I'll just draw a circle here, C. I'll say 0, 0, and I'll do a diameter of, let's say 1/8. Just something to begin with. And I'll zoom into it. Okay, so the circle has been drawn at 0, 0, which is nice because it'll make it easier for me to put my attribute definition in there. Okay. Now the next thing I need to do before I create the attribute definitions, I need to introduce a weird concept of scaling for tags and callouts in AutoCAD Architecture. Just a little bit of history here so you'll understand. AutoCAD Architecture, which is now just architectural tool set, was actually a product created a very long time ago, back in the 80s, maybe 90s, late 80s, somewhere around there, by a company called Sofdesk, and it was called AutoArchitect. And they basically had a whole add-on package that does a lot of the stuff that you're seeing now. It wasn't anywhere near as sophisticated as it is now, but they had things in there, and one of the things is they tried to solve the annotative scaling before we had annotative scaling. And what they created was something that looks like this, and you can access this dialog box by typing in units, or you can type in DWG scale, and that'll pop right to the tab that we're looking at. So what I'm referring to is this annotation plot size. Now this is not annotative scaling that is in AutoCAD. This is something unique to AutoCAD Architecture, and what it does is it reduces or scales up. If the number were high, like say it said 2 in there, it would increase the size of callouts and things like callouts and tags, so section bubbles, elevation callouts, and the tag like we're supposed to look at right now. So keep this number in mind. Don't change it unless you really know what you're doing. Don't change it to something like a 1, which would be an ideal scenario, or if we just could remove this thing altogether, it'd be a lot easier to work with. But all of the symbols you get in AutoCAD Architecture, by default, the ones that come with the product, are all created to work off of this number. So let me pull up my calculator here, and if we take 3 over 32, it gets us 0.09375. Okay, so that is the number that whatever we create now is multiplied by. So what we really will want is to invert that. We need to make it significantly bigger by this amount. So I'm going to invert that. So I need to make everything that I want to create 10.6666 times bigger, and then when I bring it in off the tool palette, it hits this number here and gets reduced by 3 over 32. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but if you think about it as something very old that wasn't removed, then I suppose it does make sense. So now let's do a font or a text style. Let's go ahead and let's create a new one. Let's see, new, and let's call the new one MvBlock number. Okay, and set it to something like Arial maybe. All right, and we'll just leave all of these settings here. One is good. I don't want annotative. Make sure that you don't use annotative setting for your text styles that are going to be used in your tags and MvBlocks, because they're going to scale off the block, not off of the text. So that, you know, hopefully that makes sense. So we'll set current and close, and now we'll go ahead and create the attribute. So you can just type in @att_def, and we'll call this MvBlock number. Notice I'm using an underscore here. Oops, number. The default, let's make the default 1, figuring that would be the first number. Let's go ahead and set the justification to middle center. Okay, and here's our MvBlock number text style. And then for text height, let's make it 1/8. And then over here, we'll just leave the insertion point to 0, 0, 0. And the only one of these modes that I think we should keep is the lock position. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then that puts that attribute into the drawing at 0, 0, 0. Now what we need to do is go back to where I was showing on the calculator that I need to increase the size of everything in the block by that 10.66 number that I showed. So if I have 1/8 of an inch, I need to increase that by 10.66. So let's multiply times 0.125 equals, so that's supposed to be 1.33, right? So we'll go here and we'll set this to 1.33333. Okay. Now I'll need to increase the circle. Now this could be a square, it could be a hexagon, it could even be nothing if you were doing like, let's say you wanted to do a tag that just does a room label or something. But for this exercise, let's have something there. And I will go ahead and make that circle have a diameter of, say, 3. That looks pretty good. So I'm assuming this is a good enough circle to hold 2 numbers in there. So you would need to make it bigger, of course, if you wanted 3 numbers in there. Now let's go ahead and grab all of this stuff and go over to the properties palette and set everything to by block. This will give you the greatest control over the symbol's appearance. So it's not always just controlled by layer. You can control it by the block, and I'll allow you to do an override on it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, before I go ahead and move on to turning this into a block, we have to go into some part of AutoCAD Architecture that actually allows you to make it a tag. Right now, it wouldn't really be a tag. It would just be a block with an attribute in it. That's all AutoCAD stuff. So this is where we get into the AutoCAD Architecture part. We go up here. Let's go from Home. We'll go to Manage. We'll go to Style Manager. We're going to come down to where it says Documentation Objects. We'll first start off with Property Data Format. We'll take Standard and copy that down. Hold the Control key. Double-click on it. Go to General and name this MvBlock number. Okay, and formatting. Under formatting, the only thing we really want to change here is to 0. Now we could just use standard, but I wanted to show you how to create your own property data format so that you could come back and maybe modify it. Maybe you want a prefix like A, capital A, or a suffix of some sort. So it's always nice to have your own data formatting, so you can do unique things to that particular property later on. So we're good here. I'll hit Apply. Now I'm going to go down to where it says Property Set Definitions. Right click, or left click, sorry. Wait, is it right? Right click, New, and and go ahead and say MvBlock underscore objects underscore tag. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll double click on it to edit it. Go to the applies to. Now you'll know why I put the term objects in there. We want applies to apply to objects, not styles. And why is that? Well, because if we're doing a numbering tag, the chances are that you will tag the same object, copies of it in your drawing, but you want the numbers to change, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if it's a style, you would tag it once, and then all of the objects of the same style would then get that number. So that's probably not the way to number things unless you had something else in mind. So we'll have objects, and we'll use that as part of the name so that you recognize what it does. So we'll go ahead here, and we'll select multi-view block reference right here. Now, interestingly enough, you could say select all, and this tag that you're building could be used to number all of these different things. You could number just a regular AutoCAD line. You could number a spline. You could number an arc. So very interesting if you want to build something and take advantage of that. The next thing I'm going to do is go to definition. And we'll make our first definition, which is just the very top button in the right, which is a manual property definition. And we'll call this thing number. And OK. The description can be whatever you want. You just write something in here to let you know what the purpose of this value here is. You could say type or automated numbering. For type, we'll click on that drop down. You can see we can choose either incremental auto increment character, which would ABC, or integer 1, 2, 3. So that's perfect. That's what we want. The default should probably be 1. Starting with the number 1. And the format, since we created it, let's go down and select that format, MvBlock number. Okay, we're all good here. So now we'll go ahead and we'll hit apply. Now before I jump out, I might take a piece of paper and I might write this down. What I want to remember is MvBlock objects tag and number. I want that whole, think of it as a sentence, MvBlock underscore objects underscore tag number. All right, and now I'll tell you why, or show you why. So I'm going to go back to my attribute, double click, and I'm going to write that in, MvBlock underscore objects underscore tag, full colon, okay, full colon, and then number. There's a little bit of coding. Basically, it's just a colon. But what you're doing now is you're taking that attribute definition and you're telling it to work with the property data in AutoCAD Architecture. So it's a little bit different than a regular attribute because it understands by this nomenclature, by this, the terminology in here, the semicolon or the full colon, that it needs to go work with that property data. And we'll hit OK. All right. So now we'll go ahead and turn that into a block. So B for block. And I'll go ahead and say MvBlock underscore tag, or maybe we should specify that it's a number tag. And sometimes I'll do like 1s and 2s because maybe I'm planning on doing different versions. It's always good to have something there just to let you know that was number 1 and number A. Let's see, pick point, that's 0, 0, 0 is good, so leave that. Make sure you set your units. So if you're in metric, make sure you set millimeters. Otherwise, use inches. Select objects. We'll go ahead and select these two. Enter. Convert to block is good. Do not, oh no, we do want here. Go ahead and set annotative. The block should be annotative. It's the text that we don't want, the text style. We don't want annotative, but the block we do. And then allow exploding. That probably makes sense. If you ever needed to explode these, that would be good. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And OK. And there we go. So it's almost done. It's still kind of an AutoCAD attributed block. To finish it off, we have to turn it into an MvBlock. So type in MvBlock. D for definition. go ahead and right click, do a new, and write some name up here. We're going to do MvBlock number tag. And maybe I'll also put a 1 on there so it matches the block. That would make sense. So we'll double click here. We'll go to add, and we'll go down and we'll find the tag. This is the block that's being placed inside the MV block. We'll hit OK. And for the view directions, you probably don't want to see your number tags in front view and back view and left and right. Maybe bottom if it's upside down, and maybe in 3D. That's up to you. I'll go ahead and just say I don't want to see it in 3D. I only want to see top and bottom. And then we're good. Now we do an apply, and we do an OK. And if you look at the command line, you should still be in the MV block command sequence. So you can do an A for add. We'll go ahead and find it over on the tool palette or the properties palette. And there it is right there, and we'll insert it over here and enter and escape. So this is exactly what it should be doing. So here's the block that's getting reduced down to this size. But this is the actual size you want it, but we had to make this thing that much bigger. Okay, so now we go ahead and we save the file. And you should save something like this to your library folder where you're building all of your custom content. And we'll go ahead now I'm going to test this out on a Scratch tool palette. And let's see, I saved it, so we'll go ahead and just drag this. This is the MV block. I don't want the block, I want the MV block. I'm going to drag it up here. Okay, now I'm going to right click on it and go to Properties. So I'm building the tool. It knows it's a tag. Great. Let's check to make sure it has the property data. That's good. It has that. The location's correct. The layer key. So for the layer key on this type of thing, they pretty much give you AnObj as an option for anno notes. And if you find one that you prefer to use, just go ahead and do that. That'll be the layer. I think that's good. Here's where it finds it now. That's the location. And the rest we'll just we'll leave alone. And then we'll go ahead and click OK. All right. Now we're in a position where we can test it. So I'll go ahead and just start a new drawing from scratch. Set it to medium here. Set it to, let's say, 1/4 inch. And I'll go ahead and go to the content library. I'll look for one of the default objects that comes with this program. Let's go to something like furnishing, furniture. Let's pick a chair. We'll pick this chair. We'll insert the chair. And we'll do a couple more. So one here, one here, one here. Okay. So if this works, I should be able to select the tool, come down, and start picking the chairs, and it should sequentially number. And it's working. So that's great. So if you have achieved that, oh, and we should test the height. So if we go and jump down to 1 to 1 and zoom way in, this should be 1/8 of an inch high. So I'm just going to draw. I'm going to draw this up, a line here, 1/8, and that's exactly what it is. So now you really know this thing is working. If I jump back to, let's go to 1/4. Okay, so that has annotatively scaled that up. If I go to 1/8, it should get even bigger, and if I go to 1/2, perfect. Okay, so the final thing you'll probably would like to do is put this type of information into some sort of a schedule. So we'll go back to the tag basics, or whatever you called your library file where we created this information. We'll go to Style Manager, and we'll go to Documentation Objects. We'll go down to the Property Set Definitions, and we'll go to this MvBlock right here where we created the number. And let's add something else that would go into the schedule, because the schedule will just have a number right now. So we're going to take the second button down. So we did the, this is the manual. Now we're going to take an automatic value. When you click that, it's going to show you every time. So this is sort of the default list in AutoCAD Architecture for multi-view blocks. Right? So this is what you get to choose unless you've written some code or something. This is all you get to pick from. So not too much in here that's that useful. But we can and probably would like to pull the name out. So we'll just go ahead and put the name in there. All right, so let's, name is good. Let's take a look at formatting. So I would say probably use something like case upper for the format. Okay. And we'll do apply. So 2 pieces of information that can be put into the schedule. So now we'll go down to schedules. We'll do a right click, new, and we'll just say MvBlock. I don't know, generic schedule, or I like to call them table. If it's not really scheduling something, it's just tabling something. Double click. Go here. Let's just start off with the default format. I'm not going to take the time to do this. This is easy enough for you to play with. You can control the way your schedule looks, the fonts and all, or the text styles and so forth. So we'll just skip past this. This is something you can come back and work on. We want to take a look at the applies to first here. And again, we'll tell it that what we're interested in scheduling or making a table of is the multi-view block right there. All right, and then we'll go to columns, and it's blank, so we'll add a column. And we have the 2 things to add. I think we should do number first. So I'll go ahead and click on that. I would like my, in my schedule, I would like number to look like this. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. And notice that you can do overrides here. So you might want middle center. You might want your numbers like middle left, middle right, things like that. But I'll leave that alone and hit OK. All right, so number. Next column is I want the name. So I'll click name, and I'll write name. Okay, so here, this is our schedule in sort of a database, configuration, not what it actually would look like when you produce it. And then, just because I've done this a few times, I know that we should take a look at the sorting. And for sorting, we can just hit add, and then pick number, and hit OK. And it's going to do an ascending sort order, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. But there's other ways to sort in here, so you should play with this and take a look at the options. It's fantastic stuff. And we'll just go ahead. What do we want to call this? We want to call it MvBlock table. All right. You'll probably have a different name when you actually use it. For example, you might use it on furniture, so you'd want to call it a furniture something. And I think once you get down to the display properties, I would do an override, and this is where you get to control the way that schedule table looks. You can do by layer, and you can do the color settings and the lines for the so color for text or if you use plot styles, things like that. This is all all about making the table look a certain way. Again, we'll do that. You can do that on your own. So I'll go ahead and do an apply now. And OK. Now I'm going to do a save. All right. Now I'll come back up here. And you know what? I would like to see that schedule table. I would like to see that on my tool palette. So let's bring that over like that. And we'll just do an apply and OK. Let's right click, do properties, and let's check this thing. So this is the schedule. What layer should that go on? I think they have, here's schedule object. That's the key for that. And let's see what else here. Title, MvBlock table. Scale will lead to what the drawing scale is. Update automatically, that's something you could say yes or no. I just leave it like this. And I think that's good. You could refine this like a layer wildcard. I'll show you what a layer wildcard is. That's a very useful thing. This is pretty good to start with. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. Now, if I tested this in another new file, not the one that I have over here, it would work. But because I already brought data from this file, I'm going to hit save again. Because I already brought data into the file here, I need to reintroduce the data. And I'll show you a way that you can do that to make sure that that happens. So we'll go back to the Style Manager. We'll go down to the property set definition. So I've updated this. Remember, we put in the name. That's not another file because I tested it when it only had number. So I need to bring that data over. And I'll just do it like that and override yes and OK. And that should be good now. Now that data should be in there. Apply, OK. Now we'll go to that other file and we'll bring in the schedule. We'll grab this stuff and hit OK. Enter. Okay, so I see number sequentially 1, 2, 3, 4. That was because of the sorting order that we established. And now I see the name. The name is furniture 5. So for example, if I go in and I bring in furniture, this object here, and I go ahead and I now tag it, and I go ahead and click the schedule, and I just come up here and I say selection add. It adds that. So there's chair 8. Now, why are these question marks in here? Well, I said I would bring up the wildcard for the schedule, and this is a great opportunity to show you how to use that. But first I'll explain why the question marks are in here. This schedule was designed to read multi-view blocks. Guess what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what you're seeing here. It's reading multi-view blocks, period. And because the tags are multi-view blocks, it doesn't realize that you don't want the tag schedule. You could schedule your own tags, which doesn't really make any sense. So what we need to do is tell it, look, I don't want you to pull those in. So the tags are on their own layer. Over here, annotative, and the objects, which is furniture, they're on fern layer right there. So now I'll use a wildcard. I'll go ahead and select the schedule, and I'll go down to wildcard. I'll leave the asterisk, which means we technically encoding you call that star, and I'm going to go ahead. So star fern star or asterisk here. Let's see there. So basically that means all characters before the word or the letters FURN and all characters after. So that works great with XREFs and anything that's coming in from some of their plays where it has more letters in front or after. You're just saying only read layers with the FURN in them. And if I hit enter now, you can see what it did. So it ignores these guys, and we have a pretty decent little schedule showing those chairs, and it could be used to do plumbing, appliances, and so forth. So that's pretty much it as a very fast overview of how to create your own tags and create a simple schedule to schedule the objects you've tagged.